I'm Cass, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be setting up my February bullet journal, and this month I decided to theme it after a character from My Hero Academia, and that character being the villain, Himiko Toga. Now, I love My Hero Academia, and I especially love the villains in the show, and I do love the heroes, don't get me wrong, but there's something about the villains that I don't know, I find fascinating. And I especially love Himiko Toga, so I wanted to do a theme based after her. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into the video. If you've never seen My Hero Academia before, Himiko Toga is a shape-shifting villain, but her normal form is literally the cutest thing ever. I fell in love with her adorable design as well as her voice actor being the perfect person for the role. And I'm actually talking about Leah Clark, the English voice actor, because I actually watched this particular anime in English. And I do usually watch anime subbed, but for My Hero Academia, the English voice actors were just too good to pass up on. And so I ended up watching it dubbed. Anyways, back to Himiko. She's kind of obsessed with stabbing and or cutting people, and it's her crazy way of showing affection. Or I guess obsession, depending on how far down the spectrum you think she is. Her character is fascinating, and this particular picture I'm drawing right now is the reason behind this entire theme. I don't know if any of you have ever had a moment where you see a picture and are like, I have to draw that, because that's exactly what happened with this picture. I came across it on Pinterest, and I'll have a link to the artist below because I'm very much so in love with it. Now, I'll be honest, this month I grid drew all of my images of Toga. I usually just use a reference photo and go by eye, but I honestly didn't feel like doing that, and it was easier to just grid draw. Plus, seeing how I was basically drawing images straight from the anime, it didn't feel like a complete cheat. But either way, it doesn't really matter because this is my journal and I can do whatever I want. Speaking of doing whatever I want, you might notice this is the second month I've done a journal setup without any color. Something I eventually want to get better at is doing color and color theory, but I don't have the energy to put into that at the very moment. Plus, I'm really enjoying just doing ink work, even if I do so much of it that I'm constantly buying fine liners, which for this setup, I stuck to using my Artist Loft fine liners and mostly used either 0.5 or 0.1. So if you're watching this is a reminder that your bullet journal is yours and you can do whatever makes you happy, whether that be recreating other people's spreads, creating your own using stickers and washi tape, or pasting in pictures from Pinterest. Your journal is supposed to be functional and fun, so don't get too overwhelmed with the perfect aesthetic that you see all over Instagram or YouTube. Back to talking about my actual journal. I tend to get off track with tangents, but if this voiceover really reflects my current state, I might or might not be an absolute hot mess. I'll let y'all be the judge of that. But the Japanese on her face, the little bar, I believe translates to murderer or murder. I'm not sure exactly because Google Translate, like when I was drawing the last symbol, it kept turning into an E in the English language. But that's not what it was, so I couldn't figure out the last syllable. But anyway, something like that, murderer, but it definitely fits Toga considering she does get a bit stabby around people, but who can blame her, honestly? Onto my calendar page, I drew inspiration from my past self, specifically my May 2019 theme. But when I did make this calendar originally, I used bright red and yellow colors, and obviously that wasn't going to work for this particular theme, so I kept it with just the black and white. Old me must have been on something because now I lack the patience of creating this type of calendar. First, it was the drawing of all the individual boxes. Annoying, but not too terrible. But then I had to draw all the lines for the drop shadows and then go back and fill them in, and then that took an annoying amount of time. But in the end, it was totally worth it because I love the result. I used the My Hero Academia font I mentioned earlier, which if you're curious, is basically the font Futura Display. So there's a fun bit of trivia for you. I added drop shadows, again, because it really fit the style of the anime and the font itself. I added a tracker up in the top left corner to track my YouTube and Instagram growth because I love stats. And then this is something I'm really excited about. I pre-printed a bunch of my headers by just creating a sticker sheet with all the words I needed while using the Futura display font. This especially saved me time on my mood and habit tracker, which you can see me working on here. In the past setups, I've complained that I hated how time-consuming lettering all the headers are. I talked about possibly cutting back on the number of habits I track, and I even debated not doing a habit tracker at all or changing the format to something super duper cut and dry. But my dumb butt realized I had a perfectly functioning Cricut that I literally used for my sticker business, and I can just make my own dang sticker sheets. This small little trick of just printing out my headers made a world of difference when it came to making my habit tracker and basically the entire process of making my bullet journal. I no longer dreaded the long process, but instead enjoyed the process. Plus, who doesn't love sticking stickers? Now, for the cherry on top is my quote that I usually have in between my mood and my habit tracker. I also created a sticker sheet for it, except the catch is that this sticker sheet, along with a few other fonts, will be available for purchase on my Etsy shop within just a few days of posting this video. And the difference between this sticker sheet and the ones I made for my headers is that this My Hero Academia font is hand-drawn and uses the letters for reference. I didn't just download the font and type it out. That wouldn't be very cool of me to do, but there was no tracing involved. Instead, I just painstakingly drew out each letter to closely resemble the original as best as I could. But of course, they're not exact. This again saved me so much time, and it was so nice to be able to grid out my quote without having to erase over and over again. And the quote I chose was, "Life is too hard. I want to make a world that's easier to live in." I did take out the word "that's" simply because I couldn't fit it, but the idea still definitely came across with the quote. As for the image in the corner, isn't Toga freaking adorable? Ooh, look at her! The reference photo I actually used was in color, so I had to get a little bit creative with my black shading, and I think I did pretty well not to fill her in with too many shadows, and I really found a good balance, I think. I'm really excited to watch season 5 of My Hero Academia because I actually haven't yet because I was originally watching it on Hulu and Hulu doesn't have the season 5 dubbed, but I found that Funimation does and every episode is free to watch except for the third one. So I just have to figure out where I can watch the third one and then I can watch the rest of season 5 because I'm really excited to see where this story is going. And I don't know how many seasons there are going to be, but I am definitely invested in this anime and I'm excited to figure out how the heck this is going to end because there has been a lot of hints being dropped and potential storylines that they're going to follow, and I just don't know, but I am along for the ride. My finance tracker is always pretty straightforward and kind of plain, but probably my most used because of my book buying addiction, book buying habit. But I just did some simple boxes and added a drop shadow, which I'll be honest, gave me early Amanda Rachel Lee vibes. Anyone remember when she would drop shadow the heck out of everything? Those were the days. I once again used my stickers for the headers, which just read Finance Tracker, before moving on to my highlights page. And my highlights page is basically just a 1 line a day spread, but I like to call it my highlights page. I don't usually have a ton of room to draw on this page, but since this year February only has 28 days, it did give me a little bit more drawing room, so I drew an up-close headshot of Toga, and the only modification I made from the actual screenshot from the anime is that I drew her pupils in the shape of a heart, because it's February and I can't be completely anti-Valentine's. I mean, I could, but I just didn't want to. And here is the final look at all of my spreads for February. I really hope you enjoyed my setup. Even if you haven't seen My Hero Academia, I think we can all agree that Himiko Toga is the cutest. Thank you so much for
watching the video all the way to the very end. It literally means the world to me. If you did like it, please do give it a like. Be sure to comment your favorite page below, or let me know if you've seen the anime or maybe plan to watch the anime. I'd love to hear it. And also, if you want to see more bookish and bullet journaling content from me, please do consider subscribing. I also have an Instagram where I post my bullet journal pictures, doodle with cats, and I also have an Etsy shop where I sell stickers and art prints that you can use in your own journal. But that's all I have for now, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Toodles!